Well, hello and welcome in to this Saturday evening, stroke night, stroke afternoon, stroke morning, whatever it is for you. If you're in Australia, if you're multiple hours ahead, it could be a Sunday morning. But I digress, neither here nor there. I am Jonathan C. Walsh. I am your host on this here stream. We're going to be discussing some interesting things, Stephen, aren't we? Regards Star Wars, regards Daniel Logan, once actor, thespian, who portrayed Boba Fett. Speaking of Stephen's to my left, maybe your right, he's the co-host, Stephen John McLaughlin, that is. I like to give the middle names. At some point, I'm sure we'll give our confirmation names, and that will really let the cat out of the bag. In terms of Scotland, if you can't tell what I am, then you're blind, really. But Stephen, we're going to get right into it. I'm going to click that off.
I'm Scottish.
Bar lemonade. It doesn't get more Scottish than that. When you're literally drinking fucking metal. Because that's what it's in, bar, isn't it? It's like actual, well, I mean, it's high on brew. That was a shite joke. That's lemonade. It's not the same drink, John. But we're going to discuss a couple of interesting things, Stephen, regarding Star Wars. And I'm sure we'll go off in tangents galore throughout. But he sent this over to me, and I'm not going to lie, I was fucking absolutely bamboozled. I'll try and get it up on the screen. Bamboozled as to what this guy was, as we like to say in Scotland, havering about, what he was talking about.
Before I sent this over to you, I wanted to make sure it was
real.
Yeah. Because I had to check the publish date on it as well. When is this April 1st? And I was like, I read it twice as well. I was like, I can't believe what I'm reading.
I've seen some delusional people in my time, Stephen, but this guy really does. He takes the biscuit.
I mean,
full of self-importance.
I've seen Daniel at the conventions, John, and he comes across as a very upbeat and enthusiastic guy, and he's passionate about Star Wars. So I can't take that away from him for a start, but when he's talking about obviously Samuel Jackson ruining his it's very brutal, black and white when you read it, but I don't know how much it is, but it's a bizarre article to read.
It really is, and we'll get into it. Obviously, it's Daniel Logan. I've never taken Daniel. Like I says, I don't know the guy, or you said, Stephen, I'm sure he's a lovely guy. I don't know him personally, so I can't speak for his character or sort of personality. I don't know anything about him. But what I do know is...
by the way. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, you know what I'll do? I'll sort that out just now. I noticed that. I was watching back a stream briefly. I'll deal with that just now, Stephen. What it is the trouble is I keep forgetting to post the Discord audio, which is capturing your audio, into the very scenes within OBS. I sorted it out for the topic thing. I think I sorted it out for the wide shot, but not the web capture. And we were in web capture for like fucking 25 minutes the other night, and you sounded like you were talking. You're like an extra in Yellow Submarine. Cut the cable, cut the cable. So, fucking talking through one of these. Yeah. But hopefully that'll be addressed now. Hopefully you'll be coming through loud and clear. But going back to Daniel. Daniel's not a guy I ever took serious as being like a Boba Fett actor. He was a child actor who was brought in for a very specific role, much like Jake Lloyd. I think that was the young chap who came in to play Anakin in The Phantom Menace. He was in to do a very specific job, and that was it. That was his remit, and then he buggered off and either crashed and burned like 99% of other child actors, or went on to make a career for himself like Jake Gyllenhaal, Christian Bale, Leonardo DiCaprio. He's far too short, for one. He's like fucking 5'6". That's not happening, man. Boba Fett was 6 foot. A 5'6" guy ain't pulling off looking 6 foot. I don't care what fucking stilettos you put him in, or what are those things you walk about in?
Stilts.
Stilts, yeah. Obviously, what is it, circuses and whatnot? Circi? Yeah. What's the plural for circus? I don't know. But you're not pulling off a 6 foot look at 5'6". There's only so much a camera trick can do, and you need to wear those fucking Robert De Niro platform boots he was wearing in The Irishman, and that's just not going to lend itself to an action film. So never taking this guy serious as a Boba Fett actor moving forward. That was very much Tamura Morrison in the modern era, and your man who passed away couple of years ago in the originals.
Jeremy Bulloch, yeah.
Jeremy Bulloch, that's Boba Fett for me. I understand I'm getting sidetracked already. That's not what he's referencing. He was very much looking to play the role in 2002's Attack of the Clones, and there was something he had in his mind that was going to carry over to Revenge of the Sith, where he was going to have a scene.
There's issues with that, John, in terms of the narrative for clones, that their aging is is excelled through obviously the process, which would mean that it would be closer to the Jango Fett, and he's not. He's only 3 years older as a kid. You know, in real life, he's he's still.
Was
a
there a
kid.
get around with that though? Did Django not say that he did something with that specific clone where it was a 1-to-1 clone? And he deliberately, he may have slowed the aging down or something. I can't remember. I've not seen it in a while.
Yeah, it might have been, John. You might be right there, but
it was just really fucking weird.
It doesn't really work anyway because he doesn't look like him.
No, he doesn't. No,
and it's
as
you said, it's like Jake Lloyd does not look anything like Hayden Christensen.
No.
And Hayden Christensen doesn't look like anything like Sebastian Shaw, but
and that's a good thing.
And that's because there's time gaps between us. There's only 3 years of a time gap between us, and he still doesn't. He's not going to be any closer. He's still going to be. I don't know what age he was at the time. He was a very young chap at the time.
He was about 7 or 8. Yeah.
So he's going to be 10.
Oh, he's fucking younger. Yeah, or older. Sorry, I searched him up. He's 37. 30, I think he's 38, 39. So he's a few years older than me.
And it was 20 years ago.
20 years ago. So yeah, so you're talking what? It'd have been... I can't do the maths on that. 23 years ago. It'd have been 15? 14?
So, yeah. He's going to take on Mace Windu at that age.
Well, he gets into that in this article. I'll read it and you'll quickly understand. Stephen, there was better things cut out of Star Wars than that. Let's be honest. There was better scenes cut out of Star Wars that made rational sense. That could have been epic. Your man, English guy, choreographer, who's working with Star Wars Theory on his fan film, and sort of did the not martial arts, but the lightsaber fights and whatnot. He spoke. I just realised I'm missing my AirPods, but that doesn't matter. You ever hate that when you open something up, you're like, oh fuck, they're not there anymore. Yeah. Where are they? Yeah. But he spoke at length about the infamous Sidious confrontation with Mace Windu and the so-called Jedi Masters who were cut down within 2 seconds. Obviously, I am the Senate. It's treason then. In the name of the Galactic Senate, you're under arrest. That scene, that was going to be a long, epic lightsaber battle with all the Masters having an actual impact and some sort of, I don't know, input into the fight. And it was going to be well choreographed. And then George made a decision at the last moment to cut it. And he was adamant Ian McDiarmid had to be the guy doing it. And that totally changed the whole thing. And you got this sort of bastardised, much shorter fight.
Very tough, yeah. I think
also we got other ones in its place.
I think the decision was made that they need to put more emphasis and focus on the Anakin and Obi-Wan fight. And I think that was far too long. The balance between those two sequences was so skewed.
Well, I mean, you get Yoda, didn't you? Fighting Palpatine as well. So I think he probably sacrificed that for the Yoda fight. I personally, I didn't mind the Yoda fight, to be fair. I remember watching it in the theatre and actually loving the cackling and the throwing the sort of platforms in the Senate. And the fact that Yoda was beaten and you could hear the Emperor cackling from up high, I quite liked that. So that's what it is. But the point I was making is that was a much more logically sensible.
Yeah.
Not a mission, but what I mean isn't a mission because it didn't make the film, but a more logical sort of inclusion, that's the word I'm looking for, in a Star Wars film than what we're about to read here with Daniel Logan. And I don't recall hearing the people who missed out in those epic sort of fight sequences bitching to the media 20 fucking years later. But we'll see, we'll get into it just now, Stephen, and we'll break down Logan's comments. Really strange. Could you imagine that now? The equivalent of that now? Fucking hell. Amount of people that Kathleen Kennedy's pissed off in terms of directors, writers, producers, actors, if they all came out, man, you'd be speaking about this every second of the day. There's been that many let down, many careers destroyed, if you take his logic. This is what he said, though. He should have been taken care of, and it should have been by me, because the Emperor, I don't think, did that good of a job. Fucking electrocuted him and threw him out a window. The fuck are you talking about, son?
Yeah, one of the top 5 standout scenes from the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's literally, he's blackmailing Anakin into saving him and helping him turn to the dark side.
Yeah.
How could Jango or Boba Fett do a better job of that?
Decisions that had to be made in that sequence as well, John, in Palpatine's office, was that they had to have a strong enough Jedi Master to confront him.
Oh, they was dipping
and also they had to make him disposable as well. So you couldn't put Yoda in there because the end game of that sequence is the Jedi Master has to be killed for Anakin to turn. And the only other logical person in that sequence, in that sort of decision, has to be Mace Windu.
Yeah.
You know, because Obi-Wan survives and so does Yoda. So he's the logical choice.
Yep.
You know, so
he definitely is. And obviously just the nature of Mace being this sort of morally ambiguous guy, he's literally got a purple lightsaber. It's like, what's he calls it, make up purple again? I think red and what's he? Yeah. Blue? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like the blue and the red combining. Yeah. He's this sort of in between. He's straddling the moral sort of line. So having him in there, he's like the go-between. And he almost represents the fucking conflict within Anakin as well. So
yeah.
The only other
choice they could have made in that sequence was not to kill Dooku off when they did, and he could have confronted Palpatine. You know,
he could have.
When he started to realise he was being used. That would have been good. I would have liked that.
Stephen, that's one of the biggest criticisms I've got of the prequel trilogy. Again, George's insistence on just filling the films out with unnecessary characters, just for obviously merchandising reasons, bringing in General Grievous. Mace Windu was a very cool character, but I mean, if you were to give me a choice throughout that trilogy, who I'd want as the villainous sort of turn before it's ultimately revealed to be the puppet master himself, Sidious, Chief Palpatine, it would be fucking Count Dooku. I mean, all day long, it's Christopher Lee. Yeah. Guy's a legendary actor, legendary voice, just outstanding screen presence, and just the character, the mythology of the character. He's been involved with Qui-Gon, he's been involved with all these legendary masters. He became very wise in the Force, and he wasn't quite a Sith. He was kind of like your man, Baylan Skoll, that's popping up in the Ashoka series and been in, I think, Rebels. He's this sort of morally ambiguous character as well. He's kind of straddling the line. Yeah. He knows what he's doing. He's switched on. Having that guy in there sort of manipulating in the foreground, I don't know how you would have worked it, but it would have been such a better story throughout if you had one singular sort of villain with maybe a minor and like a Mace Windu popping up in one movie, but just in killing off villains too quickly. One of my biggest gripes. But it is what it is, man. We had Jango Fett in there, we had fucking Grievous, we had all these different minor villains. It was just chaotic. We could be here all night talking about the prequels.
I know what Daniel Logan's trying to say, that the arc of Boba Fett is kind of all over the place in terms of, scores to be settled.
Yeah.
Obviously he was killed off originally in Return of the Jedi, and it was more of a sort of cult following that the character had. But you fill that backstory up, and Boba sees Jango being murdered right in front of him in that arena. You're naturally thinking he's going to have his day with Mace Windu, but sometimes these things don't turn out that way. Someone beats him to it, and in this case it's Palpatine. And then we don't really get to see anything other from Boba Fett until The Empire Strikes Back. He kind of makes a cameo in that Jabba scene, doesn't he? In A New Hope, doesn't say anything. He just kind of walks on set in that special edition version. But it's not really till we see him in full flow again in Empire Strikes Back talking. But again, it's still unresolved stuff. You're not really seeing a lot of him. He's really just serving a purpose to capture Han Solo and sort of look into the bait. But the other thing as well, it's not really till the Book of Boba Fett we really get to understand the character a little bit better. And by that point, obviously, it's beyond Daniel Logan's years. And Tamila Morrison's back in the saddle. So, I don't know, it sounds a kind of bit butthurt about it, to be honest with you, and I think it's 20 years ago, and, for, regardless of Samuel Jackson's input into what should happen here, and I think he did have quite a way of convincing George to do certain things. We'll get to
that in a minute,
I'll play a stormtrooper, he ends up playing a Jedi Master, but that's just Samuel Jackson. But
Mace is a great character. I love Mace.
I think in terms of the narrative, it kind of panned out as best it could. I
love Mace. I thought he was a brilliant character. And Samuel's a legendary guy, a figure. Played multiple different kind of characters in his career, his distinguished career. I've got no gripes with Mace. Mace was the right guy to go and confront Sidious in that moment, because Yoda was busy, Obi-Wan was away doing business in the Clone Wars. Anakin couldn't be trusted because they all knew he was just damaged goods and had a long way to go in terms of becoming a master. They wouldn't give him the title of master. The only real, and the rest were away, because we've seen that in Order 66 when that transpired in this film as well, didn't it? I'm pretty sure. Revenge of the Sith. So, God, I'm trying to think of the name of all the fucking characters, the Jedi Masters now. I'm not going to get them. But Ewan, sort of cone-headed guy, he get killed. There was one in Fallujah get killed. There was loads of them bit the bullet round about this point. And they were away doing business. The only real proper master figure, other than probably fucking Yaddle at that point, and she's not doing shit, let's be honest, was Mace Windu. So he was the logical guy to step in. I just don't understand Daniel's gripe here. And I can't, for the life of me, envisage a scenario where Boba Fett ends up in the office of Palpatine.
It's also a strange decision for the actor to come out and say this now, because what's to say that he could not have been cast in a young Boba series?
Yeah.
I'm blanking on Jar Jar Binks' actor.
Ahmed Best.
Who obviously made an appearance as a Jedi. I don't know if he was a master or not, in those flashback sequences.
Yeah, that was very
And what's
good.
To say that Daniel couldn't have had that opportunity as well. But I think he's maybe burnt his bridges.
It's done now, yeah. I was saying that he's criticising Samuel L. Jackson and George, so maybe that will endear him to Kathleen. Lord knows how her twisted mind works. Twisted and evil. He's more machine now than man. But he goes on to say here, George Lucas held me for Revenge of the Sith. Can held you like you're that important. One step up from the stormtrooper that bumped his head on the fucking door in the Death Star. Jesus Christ, mate, get a high opinion of yourself. And that's fine. Someone has to. And we had revenge. You've got to have a high opinion of yourself. Got to be confident. And we had Revenge of, this is the best bit, but they hadn't finished the title. This guy's a fantasist, holy shit. I believe it was probably going to be Revenge of the Fett. I genuinely thought this is a fucking joke at this point. It's got to be a joke. And even now I think it's got to be a joke. It's an elaborate hoax. Someone's dared him to do this. Which you can go and see online. There was a storyboard that was already created that Boba Fett was meant to have another arena scene with Mace Windu. Where do we even start with that, Stephen? I says to you before we come on, we were discussing this. It's a Skywalker saga, man. It's a 6-part movie sort of story until we got the sequel trilogy, which I still, in my mind, refer to as the sort of expensive fan fiction. They're fan films. They're not part of the original creator's vision, therefore they're not part of the original vision, they're not part of the story. But the original 6 movies were the Skywalker saga. It was about the rise and fall of Anakin Skywalker and all of those connected and the dangers of sort of hubris and all that stuff in between. It was always going to be the Revenge of the Sith. It was Jedi and Sith heavy, the stories. It was never going to be Revenge of the Fett. Stephen Boba Fett, you mentioned it earlier and fucking, blank on the name, Empire Strikes Back, terrible. He was a minor character. He was a cool-looking character. He was very, very cool, very mysterious, very quiet. But when it came down to it, he did fuck all. He looked cool, and then he went out like a joke.
Yeah.
He gets slapped into that Sarlacc pit like a joke. What was it, Luke, that had a stray hit? He bumped off the sail barge and rolled down.
I think it was hand.
Was it
hand?
Hand?
Hand bumped round with the stick.
Yeah.
Hit his jet.
Bumped him.
Yeah.
Hit off the sail barge and rolled down into the Sarlacc pit. When it's all said and done, cool looking character, but completely ineffectual, not that important.
We kind of found
Star
that
Wars,
out in the series.
Yeah, you do.
Found that out. You know, it was a very boring series because there's not much to him, and they actually watered them down a bit in that series as well, just to become some sort of
the most
righteous gangster.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. The most interesting thing with that series was the sort of humanising, if that's the right term, because they're not human, but pulling back the sort of veil with the Tusken Raiders, the Sand People, getting to see their culture, what makes them tick.
I don't think there's enough in the character to make him interesting enough. You know, and that kind of was Ellen in The Empire Strikes Back. He was cool to look at, as you said. You know,
he's like a Bosk. He's like an IG fucking AA, whatever that droid was called. He's like all the other bounty hunters. There was loads of bounty hunters in I keep saying Attack of the Clones. Empire Strikes Back. Ultimately, he was probably the coolest of them, but not a particularly interesting character. Ultimately, I think the likes of Daniel Logan and Tamura Morrison, to a lesser extent, should be happy that George found some sort of place in the prequel story for Jango and Boba thereafter. Not an interest. I mean, I understand it with Star Wars. It's not like the comics of yesteryear, like the Marvel stuff in DC. They've not got this phenomenal backstory, phenomenal lore to mine from. So you create interesting characters visually, and then you allow the fandom to go wild with their imaginations and reverse engineer backstories. Then you maybe tap into that. I'm just laughing at this fucking advert. What is this? This is AI summed up perfectly. What is this shit? Honestly, man. But that aside, man, I mean, I think we've had enough of Boba and Jango in the stories. I don't think we have to have any gripes from the actors about what happened with Boba or Jango throughout. I think
that last paragraph to me is probably the sort of funniest part of it. I believe it was probably going to be Revenge of the Fett.
Revenge of the Fett.
Which you can go and see online.
Steve, you mentioned it.
I'm not calling the guy a liar or anything like that, John, and I'm pretty sure obviously this stuff does exist, but there was a film in 1983 that George Lucas did called Blue Harvest.
Blue Harvest, yeah.
It was on all the seats, the directorial seats and everything. The scripts were all titled up with Blue Harvest. It turned out it was a decoy.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Star Wars, I don't know so much now. I don't think people care as much now. But I think back then everything was very secret.
Yeah.
And George Lucas would have to go to these lengths to sort of throw people off the sort of scent of what was coming. Especially, I think he did it for two purposes. One, he wanted to keep the story secret, and secondly, I think when he was you know, obviously you've got to buy equipment to build props, etc., all that kind of thing. Once people find out who the studio behind it is that's trying to buy equipment and stuff like that, the prices shoot up.
Yeah.
So he changed it to Blue Harvest.
He was an independent filmmaker at that point.
Yeah. So if they get wind it was George Lucas and it was the next Star Wars film, it would have cost them a lot more for equipment, etc., and the purchase of rental of land, etc., and all that kind of stuff. But in this case, I think that's probably what's happened. He's probably seen some false paperwork.
Listen, Stephen, I don't doubt there was storyboarding for a grander inclusion of Boba Fett that he had. I mean, you can see it down here. He talks about it, that he had some vision, George, at one point of how that was going to play out between Mace and Boba, that there was going to be revenge, he was going to kill him off. And as we've seen with Star Wars throughout the years, it's an ever-evolving process. We've seen it with Leia. There is another. Leia was supposed to be maybe a romantic interest initially, then they evolved it into her being the sister. And it's just an ever-evolving process with George. I don't think he ever had... I'm sure he had some sort of foundational vision for where the story was going to begin and end. Yeah. Obviously he did it back to front.
in life, people change their mind. That's a fact. They all do it.
I understand why he's butthurt though. I do understand, because he, maybe not for what they had with the actual film. I mean, that was fantasy anyway. I'm sure they had some initial idea of doing it, but also the way they left him hanging, and he goes into it here, I think they says, look, we're interested, hold off for a year, and then they don't call him, he's having to phone them up. That's a little bit harsh, but we've already seen with Ki Hai Kwan and guys like that in Hollywood. That guy was held off for 20 years. He lost 20 odd years of his career. Sorry?
Is Daniel Logan about the same age as you then?
Yeah, a couple of years older, yeah. Yeah, I think he's about 38.
He still does not look like Tamala Morrison.
No, he doesn't, no. He definitely doesn't. I mean, he's a cool looking dude. Cool looking guy. He's doing better than me in the sort of hair department, that's for damn sure. He's a cool looking dude. I'm sure he could have went on and had a brilliant career. Steve, the issue, again, I've got with these sort of comments and blaming the likes of Samuel L. Jackson and just having this sort of entitlement that it seems to have here. You can see there he's talking about, why not bring me on to a Marvel film and maybe play Iron Man? It's like, you're not that fucking good, Daniel. That's the problem, son. You're not Robert Downey Jr. You have to, I mean, I'm all for confidence. I'm quite a confident guy myself. You have to have confidence in life, but you've also got to have a self-realisation. You've got to be self-aware of just what you're capable of and what you're not capable of. And sadly for Daniel, he's just not a good enough actor to play an Iron Man or any major role in a Marvel film. There's a whole host of brilliant actors out there who ain't getting the call to go and star in a Marvel film in its pomp, which was the Infinity Saga. They didn't get the call. And they're still not getting the call now that it's slumped off and it's really not at the level it was 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Zac Efron could have got the call. Other guys like that, much more talented, better actors, weren't getting the call. You don't see them sort of spiralling into a sort of depressive funk and bemoaning Samuel L. Jackson. They're out there grafting and grinding away, doing roles. Robert Pattinson's the best example of this. Got a great start with Harry Potter and Twilight. Didn't want to be typecast as a heartthrob sort of rom-com guy. He went off and grinded, did independent movies, went off-piste, done something different. He didn't moan about what he'd got in life, what he didn't have, and bitch about other actors. He just went and fucking did it and made a success of his career.
Yeah.
So I don't like to see this. I feel for the guy, because he also had a cool scene cut out of the film, and understand it's ate away at him. It would have ate away at me as well, but at some point in the ensuing 20 odd years, you've got to have a look in the mirror and say, it didn't fucking happen. Just get on with it and have a career. Again, Ki Hai Kwan, I keep going back to Ki Hai Kwan. He was in Indiana Jones films, he was in The Goonies. He was a young, brilliant child actor, full of charisma. Probably more charisma than Daniel Logan. He got rejected as an actor. He went, became a producer, or he worked behind the scenes in Hollywood. He stuck around, had a career, and look, he's getting the sort of benefits. He's now back in the acting scene, and he's won an Oscar, he's won a Golden Globe. So, I don't know, man, but I mean, this year, fucking hell, you're going to ruin my career. That's just an outrageous fucking statement. An outrageous statement. Because he says, I don't want to get killed with no punk kid. I mean, it makes sense. He's a fucking Jedi master.
Yeah, I don't think the audience would have bought that either, John. I wouldn't have bought it. I would have walked out.
That'd have been every bit as bad as the sort of fish scene, eating a bigger fish on the boo, the whole stuff with the Gungans, all that bollocks, just horrendous. I'm glad they cut it.
Yeah, and again, John, getting back to the Mace Windu's final scene, if they went down the road of young Boba taking, Mace out, the way that he describes in this article, where do you go with the Anakin's fall? It would have to be a total rewrite, wouldn't it? It would have to be a different direction, because the confrontation of that scene is one of the most powerful scenes in the film, and it's tense, and it's, you know that Anakin's going to switch, but it has to be believable. And the only way to do that, the way it plays out, is to have someone of Mace Windu's credibility and stature as a Jedi Master in there. Who has to be disposable, he has to be killed
exactly,
off.
Steve. We know Boba Fett survives into the original trilogy, so he can't be in that room, and he can't be taken on. It just doesn't make sense. It makes no sense. It's a fucking joke. Even though I think it's a joke, I genuinely think the guy's taking the piss. Of course, the whole Anakin stuff is a whole other conversation. I mean, we've spoken about that before many times.
Yeah.
Another great fault of George's when it came to the prequel trilogy was how he handled the Anakin character. This insistence in having a young kid version in The Phantom Menace, and then jumping to him being a sort of older teenager, and then you're really shortening the time you've got with the character and being around these sort of powerful figures, good and evil, who are trying to pull him this way and that, and how he falls slowly to the dark side. That could have been done over a full trilogy with Hayden.
I don't think George would ever admit that he'd made some bad decisions in the prequel trilogy, and one of them being he made Anakin too young. I get what he's trying to do. You know, he's trying to prove that, you know, this kid who was incorruptible as a young, child, what he became. I get that, but that could have been done in flashbacks. It could have been done in something different, the way it was formatted. And they did it again. He repeated the same thing. Why have Jango Fett in there? Why not just have Boba Fett as an adult in episode 2?
Yeah.
You know, he repeated the same thing with that character. He could have just, never mind the Jango Fett character. It doesn't really. There's no point to it when you think about it. You know, Boba Fett should have been the sort of the first clone, if you like, the one that they cloned off of. You know, and just took it from there. The whole father and son thing again. Just there's no need for it. There's no point to it. Didn't serve a purpose.
I did like Django though, Stephen. I must admit, I did like the Django character. I'm just a simple man. What was the famous line? Trying to make my way across the galaxy.
Everything that Django did, even every line that he delivered, even his costume, just make that Boba Fett.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Fucking Boba Fett.
You're true. It's true. You're right.
Stretching it out for no reason.
But then,
if they went down that road that Daniel mentions, Daniel Logan mentions, then fair enough. They had a bigger, obviously a longer sort of plot for the character and his sort of arc. They didn't. So,
or at least make Boba a teenager or something in those years, and he is part of the Conan sort of programme. But you've got one version and you can follow his journey. But again, that's a whole other fucking trilogy. That's a whole other story. If you're really confident that you've got a character worthy of it, not putting him in as a sort of half-arsed. This is the problem we've got, Steve. We've said this before, and we've spoke at length about Marvel and DC to a lesser extent with these great villainous characters, and why I really was praying Sony's villainous universe would take off. Because it gives you a chance to explore what is only ever going to be a side character in a great story like Star Wars or these Marvel greater stories, these sort of connected universes.
Yeah.
It gives you that opportunity to explore the villainous character, give them their own movie, or even just a side character in these TV shows if they were a success. Sadly, they've not been in the main. Gives you that chance to take like a Boba Fett or take like a Joker or take like a Morbius or something if it's done correctly. And then when you introduce them into a story with these bigger figures, you've got a moral dilemma because you have spent time with the character. If you had a greater vision and it wasn't just a sort of on the fly creating a story, reverse engineering it like George did in the 70s, if you had planned it out and you gave us brilliant Boba Fett films and you explore the character, then you see him pop up in Star Wars, you're like, holy fuck, that's that character. And then you're connected to him. There's a rationale behind him. He's not just some sort of fancy set dressing, mysterious figure. That would be a different story then. When you see like backstories and you see his kid and you're invested, you're like, oh my God, that's how his dad died. I want to see how this guy reacts to this. I would understand it then. But it's not like that in Star Wars. Star Wars is just a fucking... He was an extra, a glorified extra. We got the backstory.
When you mentioned it earlier, it was the Skywalker saga, you know, and that was the main theme to those 6 movies. And everything out with that was just set dressing.
Yep.
You know, that's all it was. And it's if you're going to try and fill it out, then you have to commit time to it. You can't you can't really just give them a 10-15 minute section in one film out of 3.
Alongside Han, Leia, Luke, Tarkin, Vader, characters like that in the prequel trilogy. You've got Yoda, you've got Count Dooku, you've got a young Sidious, you've got all these incredible big personalities vying for eyeballs. No one gives a fuck about this character. They don't. It's just like, oh, it's a cool action sequence. He's fighting Obi-Wan on Kamino. Brilliant. And then he dies. You're like, yes, Mace Windu's just decapitated that bitch. Brilliant. Love to see it. No one really gives a shit about those characters. They're there for Jedis. They're there for the Force, lightsabers. They want to see the fall of Anakin. That's what they're there for in the prequel trilogy. It's all about getting Anakin from a sort of petulant teenager being Darth Vader. And then we move into the original trilogy, and we already know what happens there. That's why I really enjoyed Rogue One as a film, because that sort of brilliance of that guy, sort of producing figure, I always forget his name, spotting that line in the screen crawl and realising there's a story there. We can humanise what was once just a throwaway line, and then add so much more importance to those people, what they did, their sacrifice, and then it bleeds into the original trilogy, and you see it going from these guys in the ground who are meaningless in the greater story, fighting tooth and nail for freedom against tyranny, to Luke Skywalker sending those sort of missiles into the exhaust shaft in the Death Star and defeating tyranny in that film.
The character cast in Rogue One was tight as well. There wasn't a lot, it wasn't a big cast. It was enough. It was similar to the original trilogy. The problem with the prequels was there was too many characters.
Yeah, there was,
and one of them was Jango Fett, Boba Fett. Obviously to serve the clone process and obviously the purpose of that, I get that. But why have 2 characters that are more or less the same? It doesn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't.
Bin Jango Fett and everything Jango Fett did, give that to Boba, and then we might actually connect to the character a little bit better.
You enjoyed that Jango fight though as well, didn't you, Stephen? I remember back in the day that was one of your favourites on Kamino. Yeah, it was a very cool sequence. What's your thoughts, Stephen, now on Star Wars? I know we're getting off piste again, but I mean, it is what it is. That's the whole point of this stream anyway. It's meant to be a free-flowing sort of discussion. I find it very interesting, the evolution of Star Wars over the last 20-odd years, from the initial release of the prequel trilogies and the blowback from the older fans. Also, I grew up at that time. I'm well aware the originals are better even at that point. My first interaction with Star Wars was probably in 94, 95. I remember moving in, I was about 5 or 6. I remember moving into a new house and the guy had left a ottoman of toys and it had sand people and Star Wars stuff, and I'm like, oh my fucking God, I was buzzing. I remember being aware that the originals were definitely better. But I didn't hate the prequels at that time. I still had a soft spot. There was elements that were cheese, like the Gungans and Jar Jar and all of that, but I distinctly remember really enjoying Count Dooku, enjoying Obi-Wan. Ian McDiarmid as Sidious was tremendous. I didn't hate Anakin. I never blamed Hayden Christensen for those shitey dialogue and lines. I think he's a fucking great guy. Thought he was a good actor who could have done so much more with that character if he was gave it. But there was elements I enjoyed back then, and I find now, moving on, as we've got the Disney iterations, I'm finding more and more I appreciate what George was trying to do. I understand he had his hands tied behind his back because we knew the ending. And how do you create a story with jeopardy? Well, we've seen it with Andor, how you do it. You introduce other characters who can die and bond yourself with them. But I'm finding I get a new appreciation for the prequels now, 20 odd years on. And I think more and more people are starting to share that view. I still hope they do a sort of Beatles-style remaster of things. What they're doing with like the AI thing and Freeze a Bird and all those songs. I want them to get back and just revamp all the visuals in those and bring them up to a new era.
Yeah, they can, because obviously most of it was filmed in digital, wasn't it? It was mostly green screen, so there's nothing to stop them going back and touching these films up. Apart from obviously the visuals, John, which were a bit dated now, of course. Some of the dialogue was very disappointing in the prequels, but you could excuse that for the overall story, the coherent storyline, which was missing from the Disney stuff. It's there, and you know how it plays out. I get people probably think that the Phantom Menace is probably too political and boring. I get that. They probably could have maybe streamlined that a little bit better, but it was all to do with the Phantom Menace. It was all to do with the sort of the rise of Chief Palpatine. You know, that film, and his manoeuvring and how he had to do that in a convincing and believable way, I suppose. But I don't mind the films, John. I was 23, I think, when the Phantom Menace came out, so probably just maybe a wee bit older than I should have been to watch those films. But growing up with the original trilogy, you're curious to find out certain things about characters and their backstory, you know, and you're curious to find out whether or not, you know, it can be executed in a believable way. Some of it, to an extent, yes, but a lot of it, no. And when you watch the prequel trilogy and go right into the original trilogy, it's jarring. Visually, it's jarring in terms of technology within the universe as well. And the way things are presented, there's too much advancement in the earlier episodes, I think, with technology, with droids, and that kind of thing, droid cars and that stuff. And then to try and get around that, have that scene about switch all the droids off or whatever the push was. Why? You don't have to pay them a fucking salary. Fucking let them do a job. Why would you do that? It was just a toy.
They've always had that though with Star Wars, haven't they? They've always had that sort of fandom, fucking mythology, rationalising why things happen, why Luke was able to bounce people off of the sail barge and the sort of little things with his lightsaber, and then Qui-Gon slicing through metal. It's like, what's this? And you've got different settings on the lightsaber, and this allows it to just deflect. It's a fucking box. It was just a fucking stick in it. They weren't thinking about that. And obviously with the different visuals, it's like, well, you're seeing the upper crust of society in the prequel trilogy. You're seeing royal people. You're seeing everything's shiny and new. When you go to the original trilogy, there's been years of civil galactic war and no one's got any money and it's all falling out of disrepair. Absolute fucking box.
Shit now.
Everything is shit now, you're right, Stephen. Sean's shambling, I don't know if he's still here, says, hi, what are you guys talking about? Star Wars, Daniel Logan, who once played Boba Fett as a younger version of Boba Fett, has come out with one of the most ridiculous fucking hit pieces I've ever seen. Basically saying Samuel L. Jackson killed his acting career because he whispered sweet nothings into the ear of George Lucas 20 odd years ago, not to allow Mace Windu to be killed off by a punk kid. And he's clearly held a grudge that entire time. And he blames Samuel L. Jackson for him not having an acting career, not himself.
I'm visualising Samuel Jackson reading that sort of first draft of that script with Daniel Logan's Boba Fett writing him out. And then the character of Coming to America, what the fuck is this asshole?
I was thinking more than walking behind the scenes and seeing the storyboarding of young Boba Fett zipping along on his back with the jetpacks and then shooting him in the stomach and going, motherfucker, that's not happening. I'm going straight to George. That ain't happening. I ain't getting killed with no punk ass kid. Get that in the fucking bin. That's remaining on the floor. It's not even getting on the cutting floor. We're not filming it. That's getting left on the storyboard, bitch. I'm Samuel L. motherfucking Jackson. I'm playing a Jedi Master. I will be killed by Sidious or Anakin. That's it. Nobody else kills me, bitch. And even then, he's not accepted. He's died. Samuel, he still wants Mace to come back, doesn't he? Famously thinks he survived that fall. And who can blame him? Stephen, I don't know if you get anything else to say about Star Wars. I'm not going to discuss. I mean, I've got this thing up. I don't even know why I've got it up. Steve, it kind of blends in, though, because... Well, it doesn't blend in. I'm talking shite. I don't know if you've heard about this. I'll briefly bring it up, very briefly. Peaky Blinders. Have you seen Peaky Blinders?
I've never watched it, no.
Very, very good show, but I have to say, not Star Wars. It's sort of period piece set in Birmingham about razor gangs and sort of back and forth gangster and crime stuff. Don't know how that lends itself to Star Wars. Is he the writer of the upcoming Disney or the upcoming Ray films? I didn't know he was a writer. Yeah,
I didn't know that, John.
Writer for the film focusing on Daisy Ridley's Ray. I don't know. I still don't think these films are going to happen. In my mind, I don't think they're going to happen. I take everything that Kathleen Kennedy and Disney and Lucasfilm announce relating to Star Wars with a pinch of salt now, and I just do like that salt fucking guy, you know what I'm talking about, where he kind of pinches the salt like that. That's what I do with Star Wars now.
I don't know. I've got no interest in this film that they're talking about. I think we saw enough of the character through 3 films to know I think they get legs, to be honest with you. Other than they're going to do what they should have done with Luke Skywalker all those years ago, is build a Jedi Academy, and even that, I don't find that
she'll succeed. Yeah, she'll succeed.
I always find characters in terms of the likes of Luke Skywalker or whatever, when they're faced with adversity, that's when they're most interesting. Good guys and good Mary Sue's aren't interesting enough. They're not interesting enough for an audience. Everyone's always interested in the villain, more than the good guy. We want to see the good guy succeed, of course, but it's always more interesting, certainly from an actor's point of view, to play the villain. So in this case, I think in terms of Rey, I don't know. I don't care.
You think I'll look in the original trilogy, Stephen, his journey? They get it to a point after I keep wanting to say Attack of the Clones tonight. I don't know what the fuck's going on with my brain tonight. Empire Strikes Back. They get it to a point where he turns up dressed in black. You don't know if Vader's won him over. So he's kind of like straddling that sort of line until the very end, where he's saying things like, "I'll never join you. I'm a Jedi like my father before me." So you've got that little darkness in Luke, which I enjoyed in the original trilogy, where he's almost villainous. He's choking out those Gamorrean guards. His mind... I was going to say something else there, but I'll just go with mind tricking Bib Fortuna. I was going to say something else. He's making him look like a bitch. There's bits of darkness seeping into that character, much like Mace Windu. There's little elements of darkness in there. Those are the interesting characters. Not the goody two-shoes, fucking learns everything in 2 minutes and is a master of every single trade, trait, everything. You want to see people going on a journey.
There's no conflict.
There's no conflict. There's no jeopardy.
They dabbled with it in The Last Jedi, where they were trying to, or I should say, Kylo Ren was trying to tempt the Rey character over to joining him. At no point was that believable, and at no point did I ever think she's going to join him.
No.
At no point did I believe that for a second. And I'm sure there's pretty much more people out there that thought the same.
That's why I laugh when we've seen the sort of alternative version of Rey and she's sort of Sith and she's fighting with her. It's almost like oh, fucking hell, man, I'm having a mare tonight. It's like Dantooine. What's the planet that fucking Yoda's on? Oh my God, I'm having a nightmare tonight. Jesus Christ.
The swamp planet you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
What's the name of the fucking planet? I'm blanking on it. Can you tell I've not seen Star Wars in a while? Disney have killed my love for going back and watching the original. What the fuck? Obi-Wan.
It starts with a D. It's Dagobah.
Dagobah. You must go to the Dagobah system. I'm sure that's what Obi-Wan says to Luke on Hoth. I've totally lost my train of thought. Now, Dagobah, the infamous scene with Luke going down and facing his fears and Vader and striking the helmet and it's his face. That was almost like that. They were trying to do that again, but it just lacked all the emotional impact of the original trilogy. Didn't give a shit about the character. And ultimately, that's where I'm at with Rey. I just don't care for the character. I don't care for the continuation of that era of Star Wars. I think if they are serious about branching out and making this a long-term brand or franchise, they have to get off of this Skywalker saga because there's no Skywalkers left. She's a fucking Sidious. That's not how names work. That's not how heritage, lineage works. You don't just decide, well, I mean, I've defeated my evil grandfather or my father, whatever the fuck he was. So that means I'm a Skywalker now. No, it doesn't. You're a Sidious. You ain't a Skywalker any more than I'm a Skywalker. You can't just change your name like that. That's bollocks. Yeah. I don't care for the character, and I wish they would just cut it. And we've had a kind of break now when you think about it in terms of films, and just create a whole new cast with people who actually love Star Wars and want what the fans want, and they're willing to deliver it like Feige and Marvel back in the day, in a new era, different part of the galaxy, no more fucking Tatooine, none of this.
Confidence to do that, John. I don't think they've ever had the confidence, Disney, to do that. Even the talk of the films that they've talked about over the past 3 or 4 years, it's always had some connective tissue to the original trilogy in some way. And the last one we've been talking about is obviously The Mandalorian and Grogu. Because they're not brave enough to do something fresh. They're not brave enough to do it. They're not brave enough to do a trilogy of films with new characters and new stories, totally different to what we're used to. And I don't think we'll ever be able to do it. I think that the franchise is broken. It's been fractured in a way it'll never be repaired, because they alienated themselves from the original audience in such a terrible way that audience won't go back. They might go back and watch some Disney Plus stuff if it's of interest, but even The Mandalorian was getting stale at the end. And
because of Grogu.
Yeah.
Just this insistence in putting Grogu in. And he's just not an interesting character for me, I'm sorry, he just isn't. I'm getting to the point where I actually despise the character. I'm fucking fed up of seeing it doing backflips, it's stupid little puppet on strings. I fucking hate the character. I loved The Mandalorian when it came out. I loved this concept. This is what I thought we were getting, this sort of lone gunslinger going around, obviously morally ambiguous again. It's kind of tapping into that, what people like to watch. They don't just want to see an out-and-out bad guy, they don't want to see a goody two-shoes. They want to see someone who straddles that line and's got conflict within and walking and having an interesting journey. And then you just introduce this little guy and it's like, for fuck's sake, we've got rid of him finally. We can move off Luke's dealing with him and get back to what made The Mandalorian great, being a lone gunslinger, working for bad people, good people, doesn't care, as long as he's surviving in the galaxy, that's all that matters. And then again, obviously the success of Grogu, merchandising, they thought we need to bring this little guy back. I'm just not invested in Grogu. And again, it's just this constant having to fucking lug this little shithead about with you. It just dampens it down. I'm not interested in the character at all. Not at all. No interest. Don't want to see any more of Grogu. And it's ruined The Mandalorian for me.
Yeah.
I love Pedro Pascal, but it ruined it for me.
Well, there's no jeopardy with the character either.
No.
Disney would never kill a character like off, let's be honest.
No.
It'd be quite sick of them to do that in a way, for their demographic. And it's I don't know, it was a terrible decision bringing them back, I thought the sort of parting ways at the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian was perfect. It was great, actually, it was fantastic, because that was for another series, another story. Grogu becoming a Jedi, and perhaps maybe in the comics or something like that. But get back to The Mandalorian for season 3. The very next episode was it was daft.
Fucking terrible ridiculous. Decision. He's meant to be a Jedi. He's got trauma. He's got these powers that are sort of deep within, and he can't gain access to them. Why would you not just leave him with Luke? I don't understand it. It's a bollocks. But again, there's this deep-set hatred for Luke within Lucasfilm. They just fucking hate the character. And I think it's because the fan base overwhelmingly love Luke. And it's not just all these little weird male guys who are obsessed with sausage face and they're not interested. They hate women. It's bullshit. He's just an interesting character with a brilliant arc. A little guy becomes something really important and he's almost unwilling. He just wants to hang around the Toshi station with his friends, and he gets thrust on this journey and becomes a sort of hero. And there's trials and tribulations within. That's why he's interesting, because it reflects real life. Life's fucking hard. You don't walk through life knowing everything, having everything at your fingertips, no jeopardy. There's always roadblocks in life, and that's what Luke experiences. He loses his fucking hand, he loses his mentor, he loses his uncle and his aunt, he finds out his father's a mass murdering, evil fucking tyranny, sort of tyrannical figure. There's a whole host of things going on in there. He's trying to fire into his sister at one point. He goes through a really bad time in these stories, and he comes out the other end victorious. Rey's not got that. But Stephen, I was going to briefly touch on what you mentioned there about it being broken, Star Wars. I think this is just a thing in general with these kind of franchises. It's not just Star Wars that's got the problem. Star Trek as well has got this kind of problem. Humans are nostalgic beasts. They love going back to the past again and again and again. They're obsessed with the past and things being rosier and better. Fucking rose-tinted specs 20 years ago, 30 years ago. They keep going back and try to recreate their past and bring back legendary characters. You see it in Star Trek. How many iterations have we had of James T. fucking Kirk, of Spock? All these various legendary characters from the 60s and 70s and 80s keep coming back in different forms. Predator, Alien, we keep trying to bring these back from the dead. Halloween. These should have remained singular stories, trilogies, duologies, Terminator, but we just keep getting back, and not me personally, but Hollywood, and there's obviously a wanting for it or they wouldn't be happening. People have this desire to keep getting back and try to dig up the fucking dead remains of these franchises from a golden era, and it just never works. It does not work. Predator's dead, Terminator's dead, Alien's dead. Star Trek is as good as dead. Star Wars is dead. They're all fucking dead.
But more often than not, it's never going to live up to your expectations.
No.
It never does.
No.
And Hollywood will play on the nostalgia, and whether a film is good or bad subjectively is not in their interest. Their interest is to make money. And that's what they'll quote when they say, well, Last Jedi couldn't have been that bad. It made so many billions, hundreds of billions or whatever. And that's all they're interested in. People like that are not interested in the longevity of a franchise. It's get in and make the quick buck as soon as possible and get out. And make it up as you go along, as we found out in the sequel trilogy. But yeah, I mean, that's just nature though, John. People will look back because they had their future in front of them at that point, which they don't have as much now. When you look back 30 years ago, that's just a fact, You remember 30 years ago, you're like, fucking life's great, Can't wait to see what happens next. You get to a point where you start thinking, I want to get back then.
I don't want to get back. I do not want to get back to 1995, let me tell you. I don't want to be going 30 fucking years back. I do not want to be going back to 1995. That was a fucking horrible time. In terms of football, no, it's not for me. Great fucking year for the summer. I would like to get back for that summer. That was a brilliant year. 3-4 months of glorious sunshine. But nah, I'm quite happy being here and the now and then. I'm not going to lie. But we're discussing this off when we went off the other day. You sent a video of me from about 3-4 years ago introducing a show coming up on Instagram, and I'm like,
did you bring that up?
What's that? What's that?
Can you bring that up?
Bring it up. I can't bring it up, and I'm not going to bring it up either. Needless to say, absolute fucking dweeb that I was back then. And I always love to joke that if I could get back to when I was like mid-20s or even teenage years, I would grab myself with great sort of vigour and anger as well and beat 7 shades of shite into myself and say, see you, get a fucking grip of yourself because you're a joke. In a microcosm, what I'm saying is I wouldn't get back. I'm quite happy just now. I'm quite happy. I wouldn't get back. I wouldn't get back to the 90s. I wouldn't get back 10 years.
It's a repeating trend with people in terms of their favourite franchise. I want one more film. Just give me one more. James Cameron's coming back. This is going to be good.
No,
he's coming back. Edward Furlong's coming back.
Until he's not.
This is going to be epic, and it never lives up.
I'll never forgive James Cameron for that Comic-Con appearance. He's back, for fucking 40 seconds, and then he's shot. He's got the same clothes on. You're making this guy look like a joke. Some trampish peacock motherfucker from X-Files who's wearing the same clothes 3 years later, and then he gets shot in the back at a pub or a bar. So what are you doing?
Beach bar,
Terrible, and then you replace him with this sort of fucking female Hispanic John Connor. It's like, what are you doing? We're not connected with that character. We don't care about that character. We care about John. We've established John.
If you're going to kill off a main character like that, do it for a purpose.
Yeah.
Because you're taking the story in a different direction. Not fucking regurgitate it.
Just regurgitate T2. But shite.
With different characters. Yeah.
Fucking dreadful. I mean, you've not got Robert Patrick, you've not got Edward Furlong, you've not got Arnold... Well, you have got Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he's playing Carol, the fucking upholsterer.
Yeah.
Just a shambles, honestly. Absolute shambles. That's what I'm talking about though, Stephen. The franchises, Halloween, that last trilogy was an abomination. Just keep getting back again and again and again. And Marvel's going to encounter this problem as well moving forward, because there's going to be a point where they have to reboot.
Yeah.
And then you've got this need to recast and bring in the likes of Steve Rogers and Tony Stark. They're going to encounter this problem with nostalgia, people wanting the originals. Harry Potter's going to have it with this TV show. It's not Rupert Grint, it's not... Fucking blank on their names now. All the actors, Tom Felton, Emma Watson, Daniel Radcliffe. It's not all those guys are gone and gals are gone now. They ain't coming back. It's not Alan Rickman, Maggie Smith, and Michael Gambon. Just unbelievable cast. David Thewlis, all these great, Gary Oldman. Brilliant. Imelda Staunton, the list is endless. Brilliant actors, British theatre-trained actors coming in, playing the sort of older figures. They're gone, man. Yeah. So, I don't know, man. I don't know why we keep regurgitating. Why we even having another Harry Potter TV show? It's just fucking nonsense to me. Nonsense. Those movies are brilliant movies. I'll stand by them, I tell you that right now. I was really surprised, going off on a tangent here. I watched a video with Rupert Grint, ginger-haired guy that played Ron in Harry Potter. Big Tottenham fan, that's his one fault. Fucking hate Tottenham. But he went to the stadium with his little cousin, his young nephew, whatever it is, and he met your man James Maddison, football player. He admitted he was a Harry Potter fan. He's got a tattoo. I'm like, there you go. I know I liked you, Jamesy boy. I always like to see people just wearing their sort of loves and interests on their sleeve. That's a terrible phrase because it makes no sense. Wear your heart on your sleeve. But they're just out and proud. They openly admit what they love. There was a time when Harry Potter, people couldn't admit they liked things like Harry Potter. But now we're just a much more accepting and better race, species of people. We can admit what we love. I love Harry Potter. I love Lord of the Rings.
The Harry Potter haters are on X, John.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but funnily enough, it's ones that used to love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to love it.
Now you know why? You know why?
Yeah, because of J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
But I don't know what else we were going to discuss, Stephen. Weren't we Masters of the Universe? I think we were going to go on and discuss this very briefly. Travis Knight, Chris Butler.
I think because we've not talked about it yet, and it's been something that's been in production for a while now, and we're starting to get screenshots from the film as well, which are on social media.
Oh, do you have a look at that?
And when I looked at the cast, I thought, fucking good cast, actually.
That's a good cast. I'm just looking at it.
I grew up with. I grew up with, obviously, the animated series in the 80s, and I loved it. And then when the Dolph Lundgren film came out in I think, 87, I thought it was an okay film. This was one of the things that I was planning to do for a show with.
It's coming out this year.
Do an episode of, films that you like that most people wouldn't like. I think one of the most, not so much dislike, but self-indulgent films like Police Academy and Master of the Universe was one of mine, actually. I actually liked this film when it came out. I was 11 when it came out, so it was probably just about the right age to see this. But I've seen it probably, maybe the last time I saw it was maybe about 15, 20 years ago, and it wasn't as good as I remember. It was good as a kid, and it depends at how much you like the animated series. It kind of didn't really replicate that because that was all set in that world, whereas they brought these characters onto Earth.
What about you, Wade, Stephen, and let my dog in?
Yeah.
Dog's hanging
and, John, I'm just looking at the synopsis for this. It says, a young man on Earth discovers a fabulous secret legacy as the prince of an alien planet and must recover a magic sword and return home to protect his kingdom. So it's a different spin on the 1987 film. And just looking at the cast as well, some well-known faces in there, John. Alison Brie, we've got Idris Elba. Jared Leto is playing Skeletor.
Jared Leto, yeah, I mean, he's a great actor. I can see him playing that role, no danger. Marina Baccarin, I know her. I think she was in the Gotham.
Deadpool.
Was she in Deadpool?
Yeah,
she was in Gotham, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good cast, man.
Yeah, she's good, yeah.
I think she played Gordon, didn't she? Sort of love interest, potentially. Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good cast. I can't sit and say I've seen the original, but I've heard enough from the likes of, I don't know, I'm trying to think, Christian Harloff, I think, spoke about it at length, he says. And I remember him saying it's got so much potential, the franchise, with the characters and just the mythology within, that it could really be like a Star Wars level experience if they got it right and they cast it right. There's enough going on. I don't know if it's based off of comics or whatnot. I presume it may be, I don't know.
But well, I only know of the animated stuff. I don't know if that was
maybe
based
the
off
animated, that may be it, yeah. But he says he seemed to think he was buzzing for it.
The chap that's obviously cast as Prince Adam / He-Man, Nicholas Galitzine. I don't know who this chap is. He's a young fella. He was only born in 1994, so what's that? 31 he is?
Yeah, he's 31, yeah.
I've seen some of the behind-the-scenes shots from the production, John, and the guy's bulked out, so he's really committed.
I mean, he has to, doesn't he?
Yeah, of course.
Because that was Lundgren, wasn't it, He-Man?
Yeah.
I just remember seeing...
I always remember it. When they were talking about the film, I was like, it has to be Arnold Schwarzenegger or it has to be Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah.
You know, and the Dolph Lundgren, and I think the casting was fine for that film. Just looking back, a lot of Courtney Cox was in that film as well, as I recall.
Cox, yeah.
So a lot of famous faces in the 87 one as well.
That's pretty fucking cool. Look at that attention to detail with that sword. So you're seeing that they're going right down with it. Just my concern with that though, Stephen, sorry I'm cutting you off in your prime there.
It's okay, because I'm looking up something, John.
Is you look at the size of that sword next to this mere model, how in the holy fuck are they going to make that scale to the leading actor's size unless they're doing like Lord of the Rings stuff where they shrunk people down? They maybe shrink them up or shrink them up, expand them up. Shrink them up. Oh, dear me. It's been one of those days for me. That detail's incredible.
Frank Langella played Skeletor in the original one. A well-known face, of course. But it's just James Tolkien was in there as well, Strickland from Back to the Future. Just basically playing Strickland, as I recall. But it's Idris Elba as Man at Arms, another well-known character from the cartoon series as well. Big name playing him as well. But I'm very intrigued to see Jared Leto in the Skeletor role.
Jared Leto's... I know, I mean, he's not underrated, but he's such a phenomenal actor. And if anyone deserves to have a sort of a break with a big sort of bombastic action kind of film, then it's him. With the luck he's had over the last few years with obviously Joker and Morbius, he's long overdue a role like this breaking out.
I think in terms of his career, this risky, this one, for him? Because if this one doesn't work, that will be 3 out of 3. In terms of the material, he doesn't control what the character's got to say, but his choice of film, and you would have thought playing Joker would have been, a sure.
See with Jared though, Stephen, I view Jared as like I love Keanu Reeves. I don't want to be shitting on Keanu. He's such a brilliant guy away from the screen and all that. He's a great human being. But I view him as like a more serious, better actor version of him. Whereas Keanu does like your John Wicks and stuff, and then he'll go and do like these random indie films. Some of them are all right, but most of them are shite. With Jared, it's like the opposite. He goes and does serious drama movies where he's getting nominated for Academy Awards. I don't know if he's won one. I think he may have done. Then these kind of movies are like the shitty indie movies for him. He can go and afford himself little, I don't know what you'd call it, little jaunts to go and do like these kind of films. These are the little party in between kind of projects for a Jared Leto. I don't think it'd hurt his career. Jared's always going to be something
in the sense, because one, he's going to be unrecognisable anyway. He's going to be prosthetic out his nut.
I need to see Skeleton. I'm going to search him up. Jared Leto, see if there's maybe... What is that typing all about?
The other thing you have to consider with the Skeletor character is you need an actor of Jared Leto's abilities to carry it off. You need someone that is going to go that extra mile. Someone who's a bit off the wall at times, because that's some of the characteristics for this character in Skeletor. I'm very intrigued to see how he's going to portray this character, because in terms of a generation thing, Masters of the Universe is lost in so many generations. It's been such a long time since, obviously, the animated series from the 1980s, and the film came out on the back of that series, and there's not really been much since. Not that I can recall, anyway. So you're coming into this with a new audience, more or less, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they do it.
And that's obviously your man, isn't it? Your the Mountain from Game of Thrones. I think he's Icelandic. One of the strongest guys on earth. He's massive. I think he's about 6'10" or something. Big, tall.
Yeah, he was in the Northman, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, so they've got a great cast. They really have got a great cast. A sort of blend of experience and wise heads in there, and sort of youthful stuff going on. So I mean, look, time will tell. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm some sort of expert of Masters of the Universe. I've never really seen it, but I've obviously seen the cartoons. We always had an expression for a certain football club's stadium. We used to call it. Funnily enough, we used to call it Castle Grayskull, but it's actually Snake Mountain. It's the villainous one. I'm pretty sure that's Skeletor's place, Snake Mountain.
That's his. That's his home. Yeah.
But I mean, you look at it, Stephen, and there's so much. I always find it intriguing, these sort of animated things, how they can make the jump over, because obviously the art styles are always very distinctive. And I'm going to search it up like Snake Mountain and try and get an idea of what it looks like, and then you think of how they then adapt that to live action. And that's always the interesting aspect, because I mean, that's a really fucking specific look, that. And how you would go about turning that into live action would be really interesting. How much creative liberty or license would be allowed for that? Would there be? Because you think, going back to Harry Potter stuff, I mean, the novels, what Warner Brothers did, and obviously the production company, whoever they were at the time, what they did with the actual Hogwarts school and the setting on the lake, it was almost one-to-one with the novels and sort of artwork we had floating around at that time. There wasn't a huge amount of creative stuff going on.
I think that was one of the issues with the original film, was that they had to bring it to Earth because they couldn't afford these sets. They could not get that problem, these sets. So they brought the whole storyline to Earth to get around that. I don't think you have that issue now. In terms of budget, I don't think they'll have that issue. I think this is going to be a big budgeted film, just judging on the cast. So you look at, obviously, the likes of even Vader's throne on Mustafa.
Yeah.
What they did with that in a TV series. I know
that's kind of what I've got in my mind.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of things like that, the setting. There's so much scope for it to be unbelievably epic. I just hope it does pay off for guys like yourself in particular who grew up in animated stuff. Yeah, that's like a sort of...
That's pretty good.
It's like a fan version of it, but you get an idea that it's almost like I don't know, it's like a fucking Minas Morgul or something in Lord of the Rings. You've got the glowing lights in the eyes, and it's like this sort of stone masonry stuff going on.
One-eyed Willy.
One-eyed Willy, yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of potential there. I mean, look at that. It's unbelievable, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
So it's almost like sci-fi with like borderline...
I think the planet was called Eternia. I think it was something like that.
Is it like sci-fi then? Is it almost like a sci-fi where it's on other planets?
Yeah, sci-fi fantasy, yeah.
There's so much potential for a franchise like that then moving forward, if they get it right.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's really interesting they've cast the way they have, because you've got that sort of younger sort of blend where they can maybe go on for another 10 years or so doing maybe like a trilogy or something. I just hope it pays off, because I know there's a lot of people, certainly of your generation, not saying you're like some fucking ancient person, you're not that far away from me, Stephen, but obviously Harloff is who we admire and appreciate from the Collider days.
Yeah.
He's about same age as you, I want to say, round about that era. And he loves and really appreciates he appreciates the Masters of the Universe, and I remember when it got announced he was proper buzzing about the potential and what they could do with it. So here's hoping it pays off, eh?
Watch this space.
Because we need good sci-fi films, because certainly Star Wars isn't filling the fucking gap now, so somebody else has to step up to the plate, don't they? Yeah. And show them how it's done.
Likes of Dune, haven't they?
Oh, Dune, yeah, I mean, Dune is just different gravy, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you think of that, they're going to get another spin-off of that, aren't they? Where it's almost jumping. I think it's Dune, is it Dune Prophecy? Where it falls sort of polging through and becoming this sort of I don't know, pathetic figure who comes and, I don't know what the fuck, I don't know enough about it. I only read half the first book. I'm not going to sit here and talk like I'm some Dune or Dune aficionado. I know everything. I don't. You want that kind of knowledge from me? You want the Lord of the Rings and John Ronald Reuel Tolkien, the Silmarillion, the Unfinished Tales, second, third age, first ages of Middle Earth. I'm your guy for that kind of thing. I'm the Tolkien head. But when you talk about Dune, I'm a sort of, what would you call it? A novice. I'm thinking of it. It's like green, very green. I'm like a green hand, a green nose. I don't know what the fucking phrase is because it doesn't matter. I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to Dune. That's what I'm saying. But I think it's based on Dune prophecy. Anyway, so we've got that to look forward to with Denny and obviously Timothy. Stephen, I've still not seen the Bob Dylan film, and it's to my eternal shame. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. I've heard good things about it. I don't know if you've seen it as of yet. Just talking about Timothy to maybe end it. Have you seen it?
I've not seen it, no.
No, I'm hoping it's fucking good. I really am. It's another thing I'm right into, is a good biopic.
Yeah. I think the last couple of films I saw from Chalamet was Dune Part 2 and Wonka. Wonka was incredible. I really liked it.
Wonka good, yeah.
I watched it at Christmas time again there, and I thought it was great. Very, very much like The Great Showman in terms of aesthetics and theme, you know, but fantastic. Really good.
Yeah. He's such a good actor.
Yeah. Not really keen who he's hanging about with these days, though.
Who is he hanging about with?
One of the Jenners.
Oh, is he?
Don't know why he's doing that.
Oh, is he getting out there? I seen something where he was kissing the face off of somebody at a fucking ceremony or something. Yeah. Yeah, stay away from them. They're fucking bad news.
He's more sophisticated than that.
Yeah, they're just fucking riff-raff, aren't they, really? I was having to search up whether he was officially a millennial actor. It turns out he is. I don't think he himself would associate with millennial, that generation. I think he's straddling he's straddling right on the fucking line there. He's late 95, but he's one of our best. He really is, Timothy. Yeah. Tremendous actor. He's the actor of his generation.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of millennial actors, there's not many standing out, is there? Let's see, millennial actors. Let's find this very quick. I'm going to go off a fucking precipice here. Actors.
What are we talking, 1981, is it?
1981 to 1995, I think, 96. Yeah. Chalamet, Tom Holland, Florence Pugh, Anya Taylor-Joy, Brie Larson.
Good ones,
yeah, Saoirse Ronan, Jennifer Lawrence, Alicia Vikander, Zendaya. I thought Zendaya was a little bit too young to be Are we having her as a millennial? She's not a fucking millennial. She's not a millennial. Oh God, she's too young. There's a few. Amanda Steinberg. Fuck with that chat. Peter Nyong'o, fucking tremendous. Emma Stone, tremendous actor. Nicholas Hoult, brilliant actor. Sophie Turner, no, he's not an actor. Ryan Gosling. Is Ryan Gosling a millennial?
He probably is, because he was one of the Disney Club.
He's search it, wasn't he? 80? No, he's not a millennial. 1980.
Just shy of it.
We've got a few Jesse Eisenberg guys like that in there. Jake Gyllenhaal, as I said. Jake Gyllenhaal's not a fucking millennial. What are they talking about here? They're just ridiculous now. He's a Gen X. 1980 again.
Yeah.
Maybe he is.
Yeah.
Well, I think Timothy's right up there. I really do. He's right up there. In terms of Gen X team, do you want to do yours before we go? Do you want to see Gen X actors? Not Gen Z, for fuck's sake. Millie Bobby Brown and guys like that. Nah, she's not a guy, but you know what I mean. Gen X actors, what have we got here? I think you'll blow the millennials off the face of the earth, Stephen, when we start looking here and we see Winona Ryder, Leonardo DiCaprio, Ethan Hawke, Angelina Jolie. Yeah. I can never say her name, Halle Berry, Christina Hendricks, Brad Pitt, Javier Bardem, Julia Roberts. I think you've won already. Will Smith, Nicole Kidman, Mark Wahlberg. I think it's a win for Gen X again, isn't it? You've won at everything, you bastards. Let's be honest. Best generation by a country mile. The lock key generation, I think they call you, because you just get freedom to do whatever you wanted, really. All the sort of technical, savvy and entrepreneurial, independent sort of mindsets that came from that generation is the best. Fuck the boomers. Up to Gen X.
They also had total FUDs in there as well.
There is a few, yeah.
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 So
Elon Musk. Guy's a prick, honestly. I'm losing respect. I'd never really had much respect for Elon anyway.
Just before Christmas, we were talking about him, and you know my feelings on him and stuff. I don't really want to get into it here, but you did kind of say he's okay.
It's for the SpaceX stuff. It's for the SpaceX stuff.
Since the presidential elections, you've just took a toll.
Yeah, he's a fucking Nazi fucking dick. That's why he's just a fascist, and I'm anti-fascist, so I'm just not having these fash fuckers going about throwing Nazi salutes in public, and it's becoming way too often now. I mean, they're calling it a Roman salute like there's any sort of difference. There's no difference whatsoever. It's a Nazi salute. It's got no place in Western sort of democratic states. What those fuckers did 8 years ago, wiping out millions of people with a sort of belief system. We cannot be having that sort of bollocks rearing its head again in the 21st century. It's completely unacceptable. People with influence doing that sort of shit. There was someone else done it the other day on a stage, throwing a salute. I mean, what the fuck are we doing here? But yeah, it was more the SpaceX stuff. I was giving him a reprieve because of that, because he is trying to forward humanity and get us off this sort of solitary rock we're on and try and make sure we survive in some form. But that's not going to be any good to me. I'll be fucking dead and buried before we end up on Mars or something like that. So yeah, he's a fud. You can go and fuck yourself, as we like to say here, and I'll openly say that. He's butting his nose in way too many things now. So I've took a dislike to that guy. Clown. And his cars are shite anyway. They sound like fucking hairdryers. I heard one the other day. Rubbish. Never, ever drive an electric car. Never. They're shite. If it doesn't have a growl to it, then it's not a car, I'm sorry. But anyway, I digress. Let's go round it up. What's your thoughts on the two primary topics we discussed? Masters of the Universe 2025, I believe, movie coming out this year. Looking forward to it. Thoughts on Daniel Logan, former Boba Fett actor, coming out and panning George Lucas, but primarily Samuel L. Jackson for ruining his acting career. And just his thoughts on that vision of Boba Fett killing Mace Windu and a revenge of the Fett that never was. Share your thoughts down below about that if you've got anything to say. Anything we discussed, share them down below. Do you agree Elon Musk is an enormous twat? If you don't, then perhaps you want to have a long hard look in the mirror. Share it down below. Like the video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to get notifications straight to your eyes. Follow button, notifications button over on Twitter, over on Twitch, certainly not on Twitter, as well, to see us live over there on a different platform. There is no Twitter now, it's X. That twat changed the name and turned it into a haven for paedophiles and sort of gore porn. I digress.